Welcome to Dictate the Tempo. My name is Paul, and I am joined by my beautiful co-host and fellow bald man, Colin. Thank you for joining me, Colin. How are you?
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you were here. We're going to discuss something. I've seen a few creators put something out, which is it's nice that we're not the only one. I've seen some people obviously defend them, but I've seen some creators put out asking, "Are Football Manager just ignoring us at this point?" Now, I want to read just one line. It's all I'm going to read, Colin. I'm not going to mess around with more than one line. From a post on the 27th of the 6th, 2024, so less than a year ago, a development update from Football Manager. The reaction to the two development blogs we released last year show how much you appreciated greater transparency from the studio. So less than a year ago, they acknowledged that the community, which is us and anybody who plays the game basically, but the vocal community is vocal, so we are here to give our opinions and not sit on the fence and just wait. Less than a year ago, they acknowledged that the reaction after they released development blogs updating what's going on was great. Their last post on their website, the latest update, was on March the 31st, and that said that FN24 was still going to be available on platforms. Before then was February the 6th, which was 6 days after they promised news, which is when they cancelled the potential of FN25, Colin. So, we've not released many podcasts recently, but it's almost to the point at the minute where there's nothing to release. We're kind of ticking along. I've just won the Champions League in my 11th season, starting with 0 badges on the YouTube, so check out that video. Champions League winner. Unfortunately, I didn't do it in 10 seasons, otherwise the video would have been titled Going from Nothing to Champions League Winner in 10 years. Doesn't sound as good putting 11 years. But
Still an impressive feat, I'll give you that.
it was a good rise. 5 clubs in the 11 years, and it was nice. But I don't know, Colin. Are we being ignored? Do you? And this isn't. People can't comment. Go, no, you're wrong. Because I'm asking you personally. Do you feel like your worth to Football Manager is 0 at the minute?
No, I think my worth to them is whatever, 50, $55 for the game. Um, and I think they've been pretty clear about that's our only worth to them is $55 or whatever, whatever it is in your local currency for the game. Um, no, I think that they've gone back to where they've been. So I don't think they appreciated how annoyed people were going to be about canceling the game. And now that a bunch of people are starting to pivot, looking at other options, doing other things, they're losing content creator space, and that they hold up, you know, in whatever, cave that they're in, and now more folks are coming out and saying, I don't know, this is feeling a little more than funny. Um, I wonder if they've moved into a place of they don't know what to say, and I think they're in a fair bit of trouble from whatever happens. The response that they're going to get is probably not the response that they want. I think you're going to see sluggish uptick. I think people are, the attention span is going to move on to other spaces. I was actually Florida. We hadn't had a chance to talk about it, but I saw Sega themselves have basically released a club level competitor. It looks like it's mostly like a mobile type thing, but you know, graphic the graphics engine we've all watched. I was watching a thing on, it happened across. I saw an ad or whatever, and I was watching it. It had the graphics engines that like we've been talking about. It had a bunch. I think City. There was a bunch of clubs that had licenses with it. gameplay stuff. It looked clean. It looked nice. I mean, it's not something I was going to go actively buy at the moment, but like the studio that they are a part of has actively just put out a thing in the genre, and I'm kind of my wondering is, are they testing the waters to say, hey, is there enough interest here that we should port this more fully to kind of a PC thing? And I wonder if SI is in real trouble with
So
Sega as a publisher.
the game you're talking about has been out in Japan and China for years now. It's a mobile game which has now been transferred over to desktop for its release around the world.
Okay.
It looks awful. Like it looks like a mobile game, in my opinion. But
Yeah,
but the match engine looks better than the one we've got. But
looks like 1,000 miles better to it. It's got the rest of the
yeah.
menus, all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it was a mobile game, but
But
like the actual
what's
graphical like gameplay looked
mm,
a
what's
thousand miles better than.
what 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 gets to me is that we got the Man City license in Football Manager, which has now been removed. That's what the last update was for, to remove the license from Football Manager. Then a couple of days later, this game popped up with the full Manchester City licensing branded all over it, and on the main screen, powered by Football Manager. This comes back to where do where do we sit in this Football Manager world? When they sit in meetings, because they obviously have a plan, they're developing the game, they hope FN26 is coming out. You see the word hope, there's no proof about it. There must be a 5-year plan, FN26, FN27, 28, 29. Plan on what they're going to develop. Is international management coming for FN26? If not, is it coming in FN27? They must have a plan on, or they must have a whiteboard up saying, okay, this is our aims, what's going to happen. Why wasn't there a statement released saying, hey, just a heads up, there's a new game coming out powered by Football Manager, so the Man City license is getting removed from us, it's going over to them or something, or because something's happened. It can't be a coincidence, and it's not a coincidence that it got removed from Football Manager, and then 2 days later another Football Manager game, powered by Sega, powered by Football Manager, has the full Manchester City license. So I just don't understand, Colin,
I think
why.
you can say it. I feel like you're thinking it. I think you got to just say it.
What am I thinking?
Is this actually what's is this? Are they taking the underlying match engine attribute system, things like that? Is this it? Is this the new deal? Is
I
this
mean,
what? Is there not going to be anything in the traditional space? Is this what
my
it's going to be?
only my only hope is that I know the attribute side of the game and the database is owned by Sports Interactive, not Sega. So my only hope is that if the game is ending, which we don't know, maybe FN26 is getting built, but they're not telling us anything, so we don't know. But if is this going to be a Sports Interactive split, like when Championship Manager split and became Football Manager? That's I remember that split. I remember the panic of, oh my days, what's actually going to happen? And when they released FM 2005, you almost had a big breath of relaxing because they produced a decent game. But they obviously underestimated Unity. I feel like I don't know. I mean, you know more about this kind of stuff than me, but is there a way back if Unity just doesn't work? Can they just go, right, let's just load up FM24 again and start from there?
I mean, in theory, assuming they've saved the old code bases and that, yes, you could walk back. I think the bigger problem that they're going to have is financially. I'm not sure you can walk it back, right? So if you
Hmm.
think about it, you've got a company that's invested what 100. I mean, the last looks and things like that I had kind of did somewhere in the 100 and like what 25 to 150 million pound region, which it basically becomes dead
Yeah.
money, right? So now from a business perspective, you've just invested $150 million in R&D that's now going to become a law, right? You're now going to have to drop to the bottom line and say, look, this is dead money. Like, hey, our bad. This didn't pan out, wasted, and we've got a problem. I think
Mm.
the issue that you're going to get from a commercial perspective is fine. You take FM24, bring it up. You're going to have to race something through
Mm.
because now you need to be selling something because they've basically made you know their revenue streams are effectively almost entirely the game sale window,
Yeah.
right? So you're talking, I mean, yeah, there's money from game passes and whatever else that trickles through, but that basically what you're making happens between roughly the middle of October and January, and then you ride that wave for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Now, you haven't had that at all. You spent a bunch of money last year in marketing because you did the whole, football manager World Cup deal there. You spent a bucket load of money and you've been investing a bucket load of money. My guess is even if, even just from looking at, going through like sales data and all that kind of stuff, like at some point there's only lint left in their pockets.
Yeah.
And now money's got to be coming from somewhere else. Now, like, and the way I read the move that like Sega's doing is Sega's saying like the Man City license to me looks like, hey, you need me, right? You're more than likely Sega's putting money into SI. Now, I read that move as you've got something that is of value to me that you're doing bunk with, right? There's no way as I can argue and say, oh, leaving Man City and FM24 is somehow making or breaking that
Right.
experience. So now it's a look, put it like I want the license and I'm going to take it. So now you're talking about lost revenue, lost money for the licensing fees and all that out of SI in an attempt to effectively drive what feels a whole lot like a competitive product from your corporate, overlord in it. So I think SI's got some real there's some real business problems here because so I think there's a huge financial problem. But back to your question, right? I don't know how you come back to the player base after spending so much time basically ragging on that product and saying, hey, we've made all this investment, we've got to get rid of it. This is the wrong answer. This is not the way that it wants to be. This is just bad news. And we need to make a clean break and move forward, and then come back with your hat in hand and say, well, it turns out moving forward is really, really hard. This is the best that we can do, and whatever the heck this is going to be is all you're going to get. Sucks to be you. Have good luck, have fun, and have the community look at it and go, why do I want to give you money for it? I
Yeah.
already got that thing. Like, I mean, my thought at the moment, right, is I've already got FM24. I've got an improved match engine, we've talked about in the past that I really enjoy playing with, and I like how it looks, and I like the game that it gives me. I've got the databases from the community that are allowing me to play a save that I'm super enjoying.
Mm.
By the way, 10th season, we made it to Serie A. We just started the season, but we made it to the top flight. But like, if the next thing you're going to do is basically that, I already have it. Why do I want to give you $50 more? They already have what I have. I only do that with my golf equipment. I only buy a new driver because I got a driver in my golf equipment. I'm not going to buy a game that I already own. Basically, I mean, without anything new to and with all the marketing that they've done, that they've already told me that what I have isn't good. I'm enjoying what I have. Fine. I'm not going to give you anything. Like that's it. We're like the transaction sort of ends, and I think
Yeah.
that may be a bit of the spiral that's in here. The other thing that I saw that makes me uncomfortable is I saw they were posting job ads for um, testers. There were tester ads
Mm.
in Eastern Europe, and Eastern Europe is a big software test bench. Places I've worked in Bulgaria, Romania. It's a big software QA skill set area. And geographically, the people that do that and work there are very good, very talented people. But you're in end of May, beginning of June 2025 with a product that, for all intents and purposes, you said was good enough to test in January of 2025.
Good enough to take our
That you
money
didn't
in
want to
November.
release. Right, that you thought you were going to release in November of 24, that you decided to cancel, and you're only now recruiting QA talent.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, to be fair, I don't care who you are, right? You could be God's gift to software testing, right? If I post the job on let's say June 1st, right? And there's an army of people standing out the front door, it's still going to take you a couple of weeks to a month to do your interviews, find people who have the right skill set, do all the paperwork to hire somebody, get them on board so that they can, like they basically show up for the first day. So, okay, now I'm at July 1st, and you just walked in the door. It's going to take me another. Let's say I go real fast. I've got a world-class training program. It's going to take another 30 days for you to figure out where the hell the coffee machine is, where the bathroom lives. What am I looking at? What are you expecting me to do? How does this work? What are the tools and all that I need to do my job? Right? Probably is going to take more like 6 to 8 weeks. So, like, best case scenario, you're now at August 1st. Worst case scenario, or more likely case scenario, you're September 1st. And now whoever this person is, one person is going to be ready to do something. They're not going to go out and test the most complicated things that you've got in your system on day one, right? They're going to ease in, you're going to ease into it and get into it. But you're probably talking about a 3-month, a super complex software thing. You'd really want a 3 to 6 month testing cycle going on here, which says that you're going to be in a test cycle from, let's be generous and call it September to, September, October, November, end of November. So just like, everything breaks in your favor. You've gone through this outsourced testing methodology by the beginning of December.
And there was
a thing that's already supposed to be done.
There was already talk as well that you look at when FIFA comes out normally, or EFC. It's normally about a month before Football Manager. Football Manager already comes out when they're almost halfway through the season in Europe.
Right.
So they can't continue releasing in November. It has to come out end of September, start of October, latest, in my opinion. Which means,
in all reality, right? The damn thing. Let's be honest, right? It's a general European-centric player base. The game is really a European-centric. It's got other leagues and all that kind of stuff, but generally speaking, right? Like, it's a European-centric focal point. Totally fine. In all reality, to your point, the game should be coming out between the 1st and the middle of August.
Yeah.
When all the damn leagues kick off.
I always think
do a transfer update at the end of September.
Yeah. I always think transfer window shuts most of Europe around the end of August. You can't close it because there's always windows opening and closing. So I always think end of September the game should come out, start of October. That means beta of the game should be coming out in 3 months from now. 3 months and a week from now. We have heard Scooby-Doo about it. My question to you, Colin, right? If Football Manager released a statement tomorrow saying, hey, we've been silent because we're not going to lie, we haven't got an absolute clue what we're supposed to say in this situation, but the game's just completely shagged. It's not going to come out until December at the earliest. There's a chance we might be looking at FM27 now. There's definitely going to be an FM26, 27. We just can't guarantee when it's coming out because the match engine's just not working and we can't sync it with Unity properly. We would all sit back and go, oh my god, that absolutely sucks, but at least we know what's happening. At least we know in December the game could be coming out. If not, it's going to be FM27 and we're going to be waiting another year. But at least they've come out and said, we worked our ass off, but the match engine's just not syncing. But we just don't know anything. And I know there's people out there, I've seen people on X who say, well, we don't have a right to know, they don't have to tell us anything, they don't have to communicate. You're right, they don't have to communicate. But the lack of communication will result in fewer sales. Positive communication always will result in more sales.
I think that's absolutely true. I would push back and say that I would disagree that as a publicly traded company they do have an obligation for to communicate. So if now the caveat or the asterisk I'll put on that is it depends on how Sega's building their financial plans and that's built. So exactly what you saw happen in February here is exactly where I would say they had an obligation to say something because the game and the game's revenue, the cost to Sega, all of that was part of Sega's mandatory financial disclosures as a public company.
Okay, so they had to say it's not coming.
They had to tell you this got right. They had to tell you this got borked because I'm not going to make the money that you think I'm going to make, which has a direct correlation to your decision making on whether you're going to invest or not invest in it. If Sega as a company in their next, and I couldn't tell you what their financial year is, I assume it's probably September to September.
There's something Sega's financial year was something about April because I remember people said April, that people were saying how the game had to come out in March at the latest due to the financial year.
Okay. So the question I would say is that we're probably somewhere in a window for their new financial year coming out. So let's say April 1st was it first quarter. So we're probably somewhere in a window where we're going to get it. If Sega has now incorporated Football Manager 26 sales into the overall financial forecast of Sega Enterprises, then yes, they absolutely are obligated to tell us something.
It's like
now they don't have to tell us a lot, but they have to say like, yes, this is happening, and this is when it's going to happen, or no, this isn't going to happen, and like, but they can't really say like if they say no, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, then they're going to have to go back and revise it. If it doesn't exist in there at all, they've effectively said what they need to say, and then they don't necessarily have to get specific. But the thing that to your point, the thing that bothers me the most out of all of this is that in the limited amount of information and communication that they've put out, in theory, they have insinuated there is a nearly finished product there. And you are, at this stage of the game, somewhere between 3 and 4 months away from this thing showing up on the digital shelves. You ought to be able to show something.
Just something.
Something. You ought to be able to say something. And the fact that there is zero in it continues to tell me that there's a much bigger problem going on here.
Like, if they 4 months away from the game, that would mean it comes out end of October, June, July, August, September.
Mid to end of October.
Mid to end of October. That's 4 months away from a game being released. What, like
you're in the marketing window.
We're 4 months away. What's going on? Like, I don't understand when they know so many people are. This Football Manager is not a normal game. Normal games don't rack up as many hours as Football Manager does. So they know that they have a fan base of people who are loyal to this game. We buy it year after year. Like, put out a Facebook or a blog. I mean, I know they like to live in the 90s. Go put out a blog.
Send something.
Yeah, send out like a help sign. A help sign will let us know they're struggling. So,
well, I mean, to your point, right? Like, I think of Football Manager, out of the park baseball. OOTP
Mm.
is kind of a similar one in my mind, right? I mean, okay, it's probably a bit more of a uniquely American
Yeah,
deal from a baseball perspective, but it's the same. It's the same
yeah,
exact deal, right?
I've
It's
looked at it as a
yeah,
possibility of something else I could have played, but I wouldn't have a clue.
yeah. But I mean, fair enough. Like, it's got the same regional people,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
same concept, right? I mean, it is an insanely detailed. It has an incredibly invested fan base. And every year I can set my watch to when the YouTube video recommendations and that come out of when they start with the, hey, baseball season's coming, it times up with the baseball season. They start talking, hey, here's the new features, here's the videos. We get they've got, interviews on it. They start pushing out information to it. They start telling you everything. And then spring training starts and, it starts rolling out, and then baseball season starts, and voila, you have out of the park whatever the season is. And the community, it's like clockwork. There's a like everything moves into it. What baffles me about SI is you're you're in the marketing window. The season just closed. You've got the Club World Cup. You've got you've got an active transfer window going on now. You've got everybody getting all geared up because this is the run up to a World Cup year. There's a lot of enthusiasm about the World Cup, pending some terrifying results from some of the home teams, but we'll talk about that in a different place at a different time. But you've got all this inertia. I mean, World Cup, I don't care who you are, World Cup years in the football universe are huge.
Yep.
And you've got the test run for the World Cup going on in the first expanded Club World Cup out there. You should be knocking down every door with, hey, oh, by the way, on this date, this is when you can get into it.
Yeah.
I get that there's no excuse in international management at this point. You should be advertising Club World Cup. Take your club. You can participate. Like, watch the tournament and you get ready, because when we release this, you can join it. Get ready for a World Cup. Pick your side. Here's your management path. Show us some match. Like, I don't care if it's contrived as all get out, but show us something. This is your window. Bang on that drum.
You know what's funny? FM25 wasn't supposed to have international management. You remember it got removed?
Yeah. Yeah.
What if it's not back on a World Cup year release?
To me, that's
the biggest
it's
mess
unforgivable.
up.
It's such a fumble. It's not even
World
funny.
Cup
such
year,
a dumb fumble,
and they don't release the international management. But
it's the first. It's the first expanded World Cup. I mean, there is so much.
Depends how many of the countries can get into America at this point. For half them won't get in. It'll be a World Cup of all the countries he likes. But
to your point, there is everything going in your favor here to sell the absolute hell out of this thing.
I mean, we can go on trying to work out why there's no communication. Let me ask you one question to end the podcast.
Sure.
Is Football Manager 2026 going to be released?
Asking me today, I don't know if the answer is yes. I genuinely don't know if the answer is yes.
So depressing that this is even a question and the answer given.
Yeah.
I
couldn't agree more.
We are between 3 and 4 months from release, and asking the question, is the game going to come out, is a question that shouldn't be asked. An answer that shouldn't even need to be given. Thank you for joining me, Colin. And hopefully Dictate the Tempo is back in a few weeks, discussing some actual news from Sports Interactive, because time is ticking. And before you know it, we're 2 months away. We're 1 month away. And if we are still dealing with radio silence, I worry that Football Manager will go down the same route as LMA, Premiership Manager, Premier Manager, Championship Manager. They've all disappeared. Will Football Manager be next?